Well, good morning and welcome to Living Beyond Limits. If you don't know, I'm Reverend Jennifer Spear and we are a part of Centers for Spiritual Living, and I welcome you this morning, and I'm so glad you've came to spend your morning with us. And if you are new to us today, from the very bottom of our hearts to yours, I'm so glad you're here. So let's start this service by reading the mission statement that's on the front of your bulletin. We are a sanctuary where people can discover and reveal the presence of God within their own being and experience their oneness with all life. Through the realization of this inner presence of love and peace, we give way to the evolutionary impulse of the divine and become a beneficial presence in the world. So that's what we're up to here at Living Beyond Limits, is we are awakening to our own spiritual nature, to the fact that that presence of spirit expresses in and through and around and as everything also is the very essence of who we are, that is expressing itself in and through our lives, in and through us, because we are primarily spiritual beings of spirit. And when we awaken to that fact, and when we remember that fact, then it puts us in a place of power and a place of choice. Because then when the world is not being peaceful or loving or kind or generous, we aren't reliant on it being out there in order for us to be it in here. We can come to the world as peace. We can come to the world as love and generosity and compassion and kindness because it lives inside of us, because it's the very essence of who we are. And as we do that, then we act as a beneficial presence in our relationships, in our conversations, at our places of work, wherever it is we go, because we bring something different. We bring something healing and restorative and beneficial to this world. And so I am grateful that each one of you are walking this path, and I'm thankful that you are continuing to be committed to your path and to be bringing your spirit into this world in a way that is beneficial to the whole. Thank you for that. Do you think of yourself as an optimist? Do you think of yourself as a pessimist? Do you see yourself as a realist? Or does it shift and change depending on the situation and the circumstance? You know, with all that is happening in our world right now, with crazy politics and wars, and what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, with the rising prices of gasoline and the rising prices of everything, and then on top of that, the 24-hour news feed that is of the worst things that are happening in our country or in the world, it can be really hard not to be a pessimist. It can be really hard not to feel afraid and not to be in despair. I think it can be hard not to be mesmerized by it and just consumed with all of it. It's challenging these days not to be cynical. And it's distressing, I think, when we look at our leaders and don't have trust in the leaders of our country and the leaders of other countries. All of that is very distressing right now. And so a letter was put out from our spiritual leader at Centers for Spiritual Living, and it was put out a week ago, and I didn't know it, and I'd like to read it to you. It is responding to recent military actions against Iran. CSL, Centers for Spiritual Living, chooses compassion over conflict, unity over division, and love over fear. At this time of growing conflict and deep uncertainty in the Middle East and beyond, I speak to you from my heart, grounded in the teachings of Science of Mind, reminding us all that life is a unified expression of an infinite, loving, universal spirit. We witness with deep concern the expanding military actions involving the United States, Israel, and Iran that have brought widespread suffering and loss of life across the region. CSL stands in solidarity with other spiritual organizations, faith communities, and seekers of peace everywhere. We affirm that longing for compassion, understanding, and harmony is universal, and that every tradition holds wisdom that can help heal the world. These values are not distant ideals. They are living spiritual truths, rooted in the understanding that there is one infinite reality, that love is the self-giving impulse of spirit, and that every person is an individual expression of the one, connected with all through the field of universal consciousness. As Ernest Holmes said in his, quote, spiritual armament radio address, yes, the world is possibly at the point of the greatest crisis in all human history, and there seem to be two attitudes we can assume. One is calmness, faith, and conviction. The other is a world of despair. And despair is unthinkable. Let us then, each in our own way, dedicate our time, service, hope, and spiritual conviction to the common cause of liberty and justice for all. And let's work without tiring and pray without ceasing. End of his quote. We recognize that humanity stands at a pivotal spiritual threshold where patterns of division, fear, and rigid attachments to identity continue to generate suffering. Yet these do not define the deeper truth of who we are together. From the science of mind perspective, as we shift our thinking from separation to interconnection, from fear to love, we participate in creating a world that more fully reflects the spiritual laws of unity, peace, and mutual respect. Across cultures and nations, we see a profound yearning for peace, compassion, and ways of being that honor the sacred bond we share with one another on this living earth, fragile, beautiful, and entrusted to our collective care. Every expression of spirit advances the cause for peace on earth. We answer the call to love, justice, tolerance, and reverence for all life. Living these requirements requires more than intellectual agreement. We must be willing to transform our consciousness, look within, align our thoughts with higher truth, and to act in ways that serve the well-being of all life. As Science of Mind teaches, our inner transformation ripples outward, influencing the field of consciousness in ways that nurture harmony, compassion, and greater understanding among peoples. We therefore call on ourselves and on all leaders, communities, and individuals across every tradition and geography to acknowledge that what affects one part of humanity affects the whole. That our highest spiritual calling is to choose compassion over conflict, unity over division, and love over fear. May we not only affirm these principles with our words and thoughts, but live them through our actions, so peace, justice, and compassion are revealed as our spiritual legacy. Signed, Reverend Sonny Cantrell Smith, the CSL spiritual leader. And so today, we continue participating in the season for nonviolence, looking at ways that we can create peace both within ourselves, within our communities, and within the world at large. Because I know that all of us want to live in peace. We also want to be able to have a sense of calm within ourselves, regardless of what's happening out there. regardless of what's happening out there or even what's happening in our own personal lives, because we have crises in our lives sometimes also. We want to trust life, to trust spirit, that underneath what's happening, that no matter what it is, that things will actually work out. We want to know that. And sometimes it's hard to see that when things are so tumultuous. We want to know that that we are seeing through these human eyes and we perceive through these human five senses, we want to know that that's not the whole picture. We want to know that there is something more, that isn't the whole picture, it's not the whole story, and that the story isn't finished yet. Oftentimes, that cynicism that we feel, the despair that we feel, is because we believe that the outer world has the final say as to what happens. We forget that spirit is present. We forget that consciousness is creative. We forget there are possibilities, endless possibilities. And so in Romans 12:2, it tells us, "Be not conformed to this world, but continuously be transformed by the renewing of your mind," by seeing differently, by having a different perspective, by having a spiritual perspective. That despair comes from perceiving life through only our ego's eyes, only that human part of ourselves, that which Ernest Holmes calls the man of the earth. It's only when we're only seeing through those eyes, not through the eyes of spirit, that we feel afraid and we have despair and we become cynical. Ernest Holmes told us, limitation is an experience of the race. But it is not the fault of spirit. It is the fault of human perception. When we forget that there are possibilities, that we live in an infinite field of possibilities, that there is a force for good that is unfolding through us and through everything. And so, do you know the difference between a pessimist and an optimist? A pessimist says, things can't possibly get any worse. And the optimist says, of course they can. When we find ourselves in despair, when we find ourselves feeling helpless, it's because we have forgotten that spirit is present. It's because we have forgotten that spirit is active everywhere, in every moment, in every situation, in everything that's happening. Reverend Scott Aubrey says, the teaching of the science of mind is not about positive thinking, it's about spiritual realization. It's about seeing from another perspective. The perspective that spirit is ever present, that spirit is the absolute power and a force for good in this universe. Spirit is present as intelligence and wisdom in every moment. Spirit is present as clarity of thought. Spirit is present as creative inspiration. Spirit is present as peace and guidance and a power for good. And it is always in expression. So the title of this message today is What If? And I'm talking about expectancy. I'm talking about expecting good to unfold through everything, especially when we can't yet see it. Expectancy lifts us out of our limited and negative perspective, out of our limited negative thinking, which in turn then opens us to possibility that we couldn't see before and opens us to the good of the universe. Expectancy creates an opening in our minds, in the consciousness that we live in this field. It opens that so that spirit can express itself. Expectancy is more than wishful thinking. The kind of expectancy that I'm talking about is actually intentional. It aligns our subconscious minds and our subconscious beliefs with the unconditional good that is the very essence of life. The good that is always available. So then, having expectancy of good actually is a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual tool. So when we anticipate that good is unfolding, and when we anticipate that good is always the end result, and that it is unfolding in and through everything, that isn't about ignoring pain. The pain that people are experiencing is real. It's not about pretending away that problems aren't there. It's not pretending away difficulty, because the things that are happening in this world are really happening. But what it is doing is it's standing in the capital T truth. Regardless of what's happening out here, this is still the truth. Spirit is present. Spirit is active. Spirit is unfolding itself. Spirit is revealing itself within and as and through every single person. That there is a creative force at work right here, right now. That it is ever ready to respond to our openness to it. And our high expectancy creates an openness to it. It opens a way for the good of the universe to flow into form. It's like opening a spigot. You know, you can have a dam that has a huge body of water behind it, but until you open a spigot, there is no flow. And until you open a spigot, that huge body of water doesn't do us any good. It's not available until there's an opening to it. And so our openness of mind, our high expectancy, opens that spigot so that spirit may flow. So our living with a continuous expectancy of good keeps that spigot open so that good can flow into our lives. And like I tell you, because we live in this collective pool of consciousness, all of humanity in this collective pool, we create an opening. It's more readily available to everyone else because it's already in this field. So that's why our doing spiritual practice benefits the whole of humanity. And so having high expectancy, expecting that good is unfolding itself, that good is happening even when we can't see it, is different than having an expectation of a particular person or a particular circumstance. Because, you know, we do things like you expect your partner to bring you flowers, or you expect your spouse to act a certain way, or you expect somebody to show up on time. Those are expectations of a particular person, a particular thing. That's different than having an expectancy of good unfolding. Because when we have that expectation and then get mad when it doesn't come about, that your spouse didn't bring you flowers or wore the wrong thing to the occasion or whatever it is, that's really about us feeling like we have a need to control what's happening so that we can be okay in here, so that we can be at peace. We call that outlining. It's different than holding a consciousness of possibility. So expectancy that good is inevitable comes out of spiritual realization. It comes from standing in a truth that is unchanging, that is eternal, regardless of what's happening in the world. Do you get that? Reverend Sonia Russell said, expectancy calls us to anchor into something deeper, a spiritual truth that transcends circumstances. When we expect the great, we align our choices, speech, and energy with divine possibility. This isn't about ignoring challenges, but about meeting them with the inner conviction that Spirit is already at work for our good. In doing so, we resist the pull of cynicism, become channels for possibility, and challenge the belief that the outer conditions have the final word. Expectancy of good ignites our faith. It's an activity of our faith, but it makes it grow and become stronger when I expect things to work out, when I expect that good is unfolding even through this, even now. And so I'd like to share a story with you. In 1952, a young woman named Florence Chadwick attempted to swim from Catalina Island to the coast of Long Beach. The ocean was freezing, fog covered the water, and sharks followed nearby boats. Florence became exhausted and asked to be pulled out of the water. When she got into the boat, she discovered something heartbreaking. She was less than a half a mile from the shore. The problem wasn't her strength. It was that she couldn't see the shore through the fog. 2 months later, she tried again. This time, she kept a picture of the shoreline in her mind, and she finished the swim. She had a positive expectancy that she could complete this, that she could actually reach her goal. She held a picture of success in her mind. She didn't lean into failure or pessimism. How do you say it? Pessimism. Or poor me, or this is never going to work out. She didn't lean into that. She held on to the optimism and the possibility. She held it what it looked like in her mind, what the end result that she wanted looked like. And so I have an exercise that I would love to do with you if you're up for it. And so what I'd like you to do, it's an exercise about living in the experience of good. And so what I'd like you to do is bring to your mind a challenge that is happening in the world that is holding you captive or weighing heavily on your heart. So think of one challenge in the world. And just hold that one thing in your mind. And now ask yourself, how might my life change if I fully believed that good were unfolding here? Ask yourself, how might my life change if I fully believed that good were inevitable in the midst of this challenge? How would my life change? And to ask yourself, if I fully believed that good were unfolding here and that good is inevitable, how might I be different? Feel that in your body. And now I want you to bring to mind something in your own personal life that has been weighing heavily on your heart. And to hold that one thing in your mind. And to ask yourself, how might my life change if I fully believe that good were unfolding here in the midst of this now? To ask yourself, how might my life change if I fully believed that good were inevitable here? And to ask yourself, how might I be different if I fully believed that good were unfolding here and that good were inevitable in this situation? How might I be different? And feel that in your body. And I invite you to open your eyes if your eyes are closed. There is a Maori proverb that says, "Turn your face to the sun and the shadows fall behind you." There's a story that is a teaching from Judaism that says, a king had a beloved son who, as he grew older, became restless and rebellious. The prince wandered far from the palace and lived among people who had forgotten the ways of the kingdom. Over time, he lost his confidence, forgot his heritage, and began to believe that he no longer belonged in the palace at all. The king, however, never stopped loving his son. Every day he sent messengers searching for him. One day, a wise teacher found the prince living in a distant village. The prince told him, "There is no point in returning. I have been gone too long. I no longer belong in the palace." And the teacher replied gently, "The king has never stopped expecting you. Every day he looks down the road believing you will return. The gates are always open." At first, the prince could not believe it. But slowly, something stirred inside of him. If the king truly expected him, if the door was truly open, then perhaps the path home was still possible. So the prince began the journey back. When the king heard his son was returning, he ran out to meet him far down the road. The distance between them closed, not just because the prince was moving toward the palace, but because the king had already been moving. Spirit is always moving toward us, always. That boundless good is always seeking to unfold itself because it's the nature of spirit. It's the nature of capital L life. It is always awaiting our opening to it so that it might express in us and through us. Spirit is always present as boundless good. Spirit is always present as a force for good. Spirit is present as the resolution to any seeming problem. It is available and present as the perfect outcome. So we are being invited to hold that in consciousness as a spiritual practice, so that it then becomes the lens through which we are looking at our life and the world. So what if everything were working for good? What if whatever actions you are called to do, whether that's writing letters to political people or being involved in demonstrations or being loving and kind to the homeless person or opening the door for the person who has a handicap, whatever it is that you are being called to do, because there is a problem, what if that is part of the puzzle? What if that's on purpose? And what if everything that's going on is actually moving all of us forward, is actually evolving all of us to be more magnificent expressions of Spirit, to express Spirit in a clearer way than we have before? Because I'll tell you, some of the problems that have gone on in this country, let's just say with immigrants, has certainly awakened a lot of people to the truth that we are one family, that we belong to each other. It has awakened a lot of people. Every problem that's happening in the world awakens us to a deeper truth than we had been experiencing before. And so my invitation to you this week is to practice living in a state of high expectancy. And when you encounter something difficult in the world, something difficult in the news, when you experience a setback in your own personal life, to pause and to breathe and to re-anchor yourself in the idea that Spirit is at work here, now. Spirit is unfolding itself here, now. And as a result of that, you'll be moving through your own life with a greater sense of ease. You'll be fanning the flames of your faith. You will be magnifying possibilities in the world and creating an opening in your consciousness for Spirit to express itself more fully in and through you and in and through your life. And so blessings to each and every single one of you as you walk this spiritual path, as you hold to the capital T truth about Spirit when you can't see it in the world, when you hold that in consciousness anyway. Thank you for being the beneficial presence that you are and for making a difference. Thank you for that. And so I invite you to join me in an affirmative prayer as we take our attention and put it on that capital T truth, that seriously and truly Spirit is the only presence, the only power, the only thing, the one thing that is animating all of life. And so when we see problems, when we see things that aren't working in the world, it's because Spirit isn't fully expressing itself there. It's a partial and incomplete expression. So what I know right now is that we are creating an opening in consciousness so that spirit might unfold itself in more profound and magnificent and beautiful and loving ways. For I know that the fullness of spirit is right here, right now. And that within that presence is the solution to every problem. Within that presence is the answer to every question. Within that presence is the way forward. And what I claim and know right now is that that presence is fully active within our president, within the president of Israel, within the president of Iran, and every single place. That presence is right there, right now, revealing itself. And so regardless of what's going on, we hold to that truth. I recognize that this presence expresses as peace and love and oneness and harmony and order and good without bound. And so today we recognize that that is ever present in all we do, everywhere we go, and we look to that and we remain open to that with a high expectancy of that presence revealing itself as peace and as unity, as harmony and order and brotherhood and good in this world. And so I release that word, that truth into the law of spirit, the creative womb of the universe, knowing that it reflects itself out into this world because it has always been, because it is the truth, and because we have opened ourselves to it. And so I release this prayer with absolute gratitude for all of the good. And I invite you to join me in saying, and so it is. So I have a couple of invitations for you as a way to participate in this family. One is we are going to have a book club and discussion that is based on Alan Levi's book, Theo of Golden. It's available on Amazon. Someone told me they got it on one of the used book sites. I think it's in the library. So if you are interested, it is a book about the profound impact of small, quiet acts of love and compassion can make on a busy world. We're going to read the book, and then sometime between the end of March and the first week of April, we're going to pick a day that everybody can get together, and so we can get together and talk about the book and hang out together. The last Sunday of this month, we are not meeting here. It's the fifth Sunday. We're going to be going to El Dorado Park Nature Center and doing forest bathing, spend time outdoors, grounded on the earth and filled back up and renewing ourselves and our spirits. So we invite you to join us 10 o'clock the last Sunday. No one will be here. We will be over there, so join us for that. Our Sunday talks are available on our website and our YouTube channel. We invite you to please check in on Meetup and say you're coming, to follow us on Facebook, like the things that we post, share them. You just have to hit the share button and it goes out to all of your friends so that we build an audience, because that's how we attract new people coming here. And we have prayer support after service if you would like prayer. We have prayer shawls if you'd like to take a prayer shawl with you and be wrapped in that energy of prayer. If there's some new venture in your life or someone that you know that would like to be wrapped in prayer, we invite you to do that. The practitioners will pray over it before you leave, and we have a Ministry of Prayer box. If you'd like to fill out a prayer request, it's back there, and we will support you in prayer during the week. And so the last thing is I invite you to repeat after me. Good fills my life now.
Good fills my life now.
I recognize it. I savor it. I love it. And I live it. And so it is.